Watch yourselves, ladies. It's Vlogger 624.
Ended up with stuff in my hands. Good morning, it's Sunday. And which means it's time for Mercy Ships Monday. But before we get into Mercy Ships Monday and my mild distraction for having something on my hands, I don't know what that was. Today, I was gonna, couple updates. One, what I've been doing today, I basically just went to the cafe, had coffee, and worked on couriers. I'm just reading through couriers right now. There are a couple little things we're finding as to go through, but really it's just to get into the mindset of the books so that I can write the sequels, because I really need to get started on writing those. So that was really good. The second thing is the thing that I didn't tell you about yesterday, which is the shirt. For those of you who saw the shirt that I made for Natasha for her birthday, the sweatshirt with the heart face on it, it is now available. I've been saying that I would make it available eventually, but I wanted to wait till the Kickstarter was over. Didn't want to have too many things going on at once. And what I'm launching with this is basically a shirt of the month. The idea is that I'll do a shirt every month. I've got some really fun designs coming up for the next couple of months, but this month is this shirt. I realize this one's probably a little bit more leaning towards the ladies, but hey, a couple of guys have already bought them. Fellas, there is a men's option or two, like a hoodie and so forth on there for you. But if you really want my face in a heart on a shirt over your heart, then you can now put my face over your heart. And there you have it. Those are really the main updates. My dad's coming this week, lots of stuff going on, but today is Mercy Ships Monday, like I said, and I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about the Congo. This is kind of an overview. There are a lot of really interesting things about the Congo. First of all, it's not the big Congo, not the one you're probably thinking of, not the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. This was the Republic of Congo, which is the French Congo, the one right next door. It's a little bit smaller, Congo Brazzaville. I didn't live in Brazzaville either because Brazzaville's way up the river. I actually lived on the ocean in Pointe Noire, which is the port city of Congo, and that is where I was the media liaison for Mercy Ships. When I left Paris, I left to become the media liaison, started in the Canary Islands, and we sailed, obviously, down to the Congo. On that sail is when I became a Royal Diamond Shellback. I talked previously about becoming a shellback. I'm also a Royal Diamond Shellback because I crossed at 00, the equator and prime meridian. Great place to cross. Stayed in the Congo for about 5 months and I worked non-stop. Being the media liaison was a great job. It was like my favorite, probably the best jobs I've ever had in my life. I loved it. What it meant was that I was responsible for media teams as soon as they hit the ground until they left again. Whether it was a solitary print journalist or a full media team, documentarians, people that were coming to actually make ad campaigns directly for Mercy Ships. I kind of did everything from babysit to produce and somewhere in between. But the real job, besides just trying to keep them out of prison when we were in country, because sometimes they did some really stupid stuff, was really to try and keep the hospital happy while getting the media team what they wanted. What I mean is that I would actually, because I knew everybody in the hospital and was there to help the media team and understood what the media teams were after, I liaised between the two, thus media liaison. But I would go to the hospital, I would get permission for things that were necessary, but I would also just be the face of it. I would go in ahead, I'd say, hey, we want to come in at this time, we want to see these patients, would you work with us? Because there's a natural conflict of interest when you're working with a humanitarian organization in that you need to raise funds somehow, and a big part of raising funds is allowing people to come and tell your story. But of course, when you're dealing with medical issues and when you're dealing with patients, all of the medical staff are there to protect the patients first. And so you want to find a little bit of a balance there because the media can be a little bit exploitative, and so you want to try and curb that. You very strongly want to respect the patients, their dignity. You want to present their stories in a very good, positive light. Ultimately, you don't want to be exploitative. You don't want to invoke some form of like poverty sympathy. Like you want to make sure everyone's treated very, very well. So my job was to go in and make sure that the hospital was happy, that the patients were treated well and kindly and with dignity, and at the same time ensure that the media teams actually got what they were there for, that they actually got a story, that they actually got the time that they needed with patients in the hospital, around the ship, wherever it was they were trying to go. So I was always doing a little bit of a dance, trying to keep people happy, trying not to yell too much at the media team, trying not to get yelled too much at by the hospital. But by and large, it went very, very well. It was very smooth, and I really liked the job. The reason that it ended up burning me out, and the reason that it kind of killed me, was that I worked like 12 to 15 hours a day for about 5 months straight, which is a lot of work. I tended to work at least 6 days a week at that pace. When I had a team that was there for multiple weeks, I pretty much didn't get a break. I actually counted like how many days off I actually took, meaning like one day every here and there for weekends. And when I finally went on vacation after burning out pretty hard, I went on vacation for like 30 days. And after tallying it all up, it didn't even make up for the weekends that I'd missed, let alone, just being a vacation. So I did burn out very, very hard. And unfortunately, when I burned out, there was a team from Sweden that was there, and they were super, super nice. They were really, really friendly people, like lovely people, very, very, very professional. They'd been collectively, I think the average length of time that they had been in the business was like 27 years. So as an older team, they were actually probably the easiest team that I had the entire time I was there. And I only made it like 3 or 4 hours before I felt like I wanted to pull my hair out. And it was not their fault at all. But the thing was, it got to the point where we had teams coming that were overlapping. Like I would literally drop one team off at the airport and wait to pick up the next team that came in on the same flight. By the end, I was actually picking up teams like that Swedish team before even sending the other teams back. There were just some massive scheduling problems. And there were people in the process that didn't listen when I said, like I actually have to sleep at some point. And that did lead me to be burned out. And that's actually another issue too that's just prevalent among NGOs, is that there's a tendency to work the people you have to death, not because there's an intent to do that, but because staffing is often short, money is obviously always short, and you're trying to get the most you can out of anybody that you're working with. So like I said, I loved that job to death. It was almost to death. It was my favorite. It was a really, really good job, something I'm definitely geared for. Really, really liked it. Just needed a little bit of downtime. And we could talk about cultural issues sometime in the future. Internally within Mercy Ships at the time, some of those things have changed. I'm sure some of them have not. But there were certain things in there that definitely made it harder. Other things that made it easier than it otherwise would have been. And I also at the same time, definitely, I don't know how much I can share about this or should share about this, because I never talk about dating at all. But I fell very much in love with somebody during this time period as well. And she also led to a number of severe stressors in my life, as falling in love sometimes does. And so that probably didn't help. I think if it had been one or the other, especially if she hadn't been around, if I hadn't just thrown myself off the cliff of love as I did for that, I think things also would have gone differently. But because there was a combination of those things going on at the same time, I definitely burned through what little emotional reserve I had at the time. And most people, I think, on the ship didn't even know that I was actively pursuing somebody on the ship and then sort of dating somebody on the ship. It's confusing. It's all confusing. When you live in the same space as somebody else, we can talk about like romance on the ship at some point, because people ignorantly call it the love boat, because a lot of people do get married on the ship, but it also is like the relationships don't last very well beyond the boat. So you got to be really careful. That's a whole other conversation. If you guys are interested in it, we can talk about that at another time. But anyways, that is a little bit about that. I got so burned out that when they finally, I won't talk about, maybe I'll tell the whole story about how like I actually fell apart at some point. But I went to see the crew physician because I was in really bad shape, and he told me that he wanted to basically sedate me. He gave me sleeping pills, wrote up a thing saying Jay can't work anymore, which he gave me the option of taking or not. And in the end, I ended up taking it, which was really hard for me because, as you know, I like to work very hard. I don't like to quit. And I felt like that was quitting, but I took it. He gave me some pills. I don't know what they were. And I just remember sleeping for like 13 hours a day for like a week in my cabin. And that was both miserable and amazing all at the same time. I kind of loved it at the same time. And then I went to the States for a month and was just toast, absolute toast. And it was when I was in the States thinking like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to finish out the year. Like there are another 4 months to go, but I can't do it. Ironically, that was when things finally did tone down on the media team side of things. Like it would have just been smooth sailing, but I was done. I was not in a good space. And so, yeah, I kind of tendered my resignation. And then, I did go back to the ship for like a month, I think, month and a half, and then went back to the States and pretty much immediately jumped on an airplane from there and was a traveling consultant for the next couple of years. So I never stopped, and it did take me a long time to recover. And really, that was a big part of it. Wasn't the cause, but it was on that downward slope towards or into what was the darkest period of my life in many, many ways. A dark period that I only exited as I began vlogging, which many of you know. And if you go back and see the stuff from when I was living in Spokane, you can definitely see not in a happy place, not in a happy place, but I'm in a much better place now. And there's so many good memories about the Congo, so many good friends. My favorite Indian restaurant is in Pointe Noire, although it just recently closed down apparently, which is sad. My favorite shawarma place is in Pointe Noire. Great food. Not a country that was particularly enjoyable to live in. It was a a little bit of a challenge. Dictatorships are rarely, the most fun. Not allowed to call it a dictatorship, really. But it is. Definitely some very interesting stories. Lots of good stories. Had a great motorcycle there. Had a good friend who ran a restaurant there. Have a lot of stories from there. And maybe we can talk about those at some point. In the meantime, there you go. We've covered all of the countries that I lived in with Mercy ships, from South Africa to Congo, everything in between, and a little bit before. Of course, if you guys are interested in Mercy Ships Monday, especially after we actually go to the ship next weekend, I would love to keep telling you stories. I will keep digging in, and I'll start telling stories by actually just digging in, finding some fun photos or videos, and telling the stories from those. Instead of the overview stuff, we can actually get into some more specific stories. If you like them, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you had a great Sunday. I hope that you have a wonderful spring ahead of you, because, oh man, it's finally starting to warm up just a little bit, and it's so good. I am gonna go grab a beer with Mark, because I keep trying to see Mark, and I'm finally gonna succeed at that. And I'll see you again bright and early tomorrow morning as I get back to all kinds of random work this week, as I get ready for my dad to come, and then we go to Cameroon. Gonna be a busy week. See you tomorrow.